Pete, hop in.
Good morning, D. This is a show that we've anticipated for some time, right? I mean, we talked about it even last weekend that we were expecting some of these offers to go out. I believe it was Gabby, right, who had the scoop on some of these names. And from what I understand, I don't think they're done at especially at D tackle, right? So we're going to talk about 4 of these names that they offer, four DBs, right, and then a defensive tackle. And I don't think they're done offering at defensive tackle, especially there might be some guys out there that are committed to other programs that they'll be offering here shortly as well. So I don't think it's the end of it. This is something that, again, we've expected here because of some of these misses at the position. I guess my question before we start getting into some of these names is just, because 4 safety offers is it's a lot. And most of these guys are committed elsewhere, so you want to try to flip them, and those aren't always easy in today's era. But does this mean something is going south with Cortez Redding?
I don't think so. I think, you have 0 safety commits. You were hoping to get Devin Jackson and Blake Stewart, and that'd be 2. So I think you're just trying to get to that number 2 with Cortez Redding on the board for tomorrow. Last I heard, that was something that Miami was hoping to get done. I'll dig in before the commitment. We'll do a show tomorrow on that commitment, but I still expect that one to potentially go Miami's way. We'll see that as Cortez Redding, the safety out of Atlanta. We talk about him plenty because he announces tomorrow. But what catches my eye, Pete, is Atlanta is really on fire, right? Because you're after Blake Stewart, who's from Atlanta at safety. He goes to Clemson. Cortez Redding, we'll see tomorrow. Miami's in there. He visited twice. That's another Atlanta safety. Then you look at the expanded board, and we'll talk about all these guys individually. Markeel Taylor, Jamar Owens, Joel Combe, Tony Forny, all Atlanta safeties. So that's a loaded city right now when it comes to the safety position. They've been producing defensive backs at a very high rate. I think South Florida and Atlanta are the 2 regions that really have been, as far as metro regions, that have been producing the most defensive backs in general the last few years. South Florida, I think, taking a step back defensive back-wise since that huge run in 18 and 19. Hasn't been quite the same in the last 5 years, but Atlanta definitely picking up the slack, and we'll talk about that. I'm actually here in Denver. I saw a giant mural of Pat Surtain there right next to the stadium, just on some random building, reminding us of some battles.
As if you needed any more reminders of Miami's recruiting misses locally, right?
Yeah, and 26 pointing out Tyreek Green from Buford, another Atlanta area safety. He went to Georgia, so this was an incredible year for Atlanta at the safety position. Also, by the way, after we talk about these targets, we're going to talk about the the wide receiver room, right? Kind of previewing that, as well as it's going on one of our recruiting rewinds there for 2008. So, P, where you want to start here on this expanded board at defensive tackle and safety?
Let's get the D tackle out of the way. Alistair Vallejo out of Liberty Hill, Texas, who Gabby says is drawing Mason Graham comparisons. I'm not sure I see that in the highlights here, but I will give you the floor.
Well, I mean, part of the reason probably is like a white guy, right? White defensive tackle wears number 50 something. So, that's similar to Mason Graham. I do see some similarities. Mason Graham was not a 5-star player. I think he was rated in this range, maybe a little higher as that is like the Michigan range where they operate. Of course, Vallejo's a Michigan commit. They usually operate in that mid to low 4-star range. Then you go back and look, and these guys are going first round of the draft. So they're really good evaluators. I like this film. I think this is a Miami caliber guy just based on the highlights. Again, there's more to it. You got to see him in person, et cetera. Watch full game films. But just looking at the highlights and seeing what he does, you see why. I believe these are his playoff highlights. You see why he is such a coveted player. Michigan has been committed. So obviously he's been evaluated as we watch his highlights from the Texas playoffs. Guy has changed the direction. You can see that. He's got a motor. He finishes plays. On his extended season highlights, you see him blocking a lot of kicks. There you see him just pushing this guy to the ground. So that's one indicator that I'm always a big fan of. When you look at NFL defensive linemen, defensive tackles, really any position. Block kicks is a very good indicator of motor, good indicator just instincts and timing, and then, of course, the explosiveness to get off the ball. So that's always something I look for. And I think he's got like 6 or something, 7 block kicks going back to his sophomore year. So that's an area where he's productive. He gets off blocks. He's not like, a freak athlete, but he definitely moves around pretty good. And
yeah, and they're playing him at edge, which shows me that they think he has enough athleticism for that spot. I mean, at least at the high school level, obviously. But
yeah, just some numbers on him as a junior: 45 and a 2-inch shot put, which is a good number. I mean, we're spoiled by these astronomical numbers by Jackson Canwell, but that's a solid number there. 121.7 discus throw. So he runs track. Junior year, 51 tackles, 9 tackles for loss, 7 sacks, 16 hurries, and my favorite stat, 4 kick blocks. Just a coordinated player. Austin, Texas area. So this is a Texan, but Texas A&M are in the mix. Is really a Michigan commit. That's the one you're going to have to fight off. You want to flip this guy. I like that we are evaluating other commitment lists. We're not just going for the low-hanging fruit. We're going for guys that we think can play ball at this level. So I support the offer, certainly. I want to see where it goes. Michigan's a little harder to flip than, somewhere like, let me just put here we go.
I wonder if Damian Lewis, being a Texas guy, has any pull here.
You'd hope so, right? I mean, that's one of the reasons you got him. I mean, right now
that was nice right there. That was nice. That was really nice right there.
Yes, I mean, here we're going to the full season highlights. I mean, this guy's a real player. Again, Michigan had 2 defensive tackles drafted in the top 12 picks this year.
Yeah,
and I think Kenneth Grant was like a high 3-star, low 4-star.
I guess just looking at it, D, it's obviously this is a take all day for Miami, but my thing is, you have flipped one from Michigan technically already in Brody Jennings, but just looking at their class, they have Titan Davis is another defensive lineman, 6'4.5", 270, who probably grows into a D tackle as well there, but. It's not like they have a surplus of D tackles committed where he's looking around saying, am I a priority for you guys? That's just speculating. So this just seems like it might be a tough flip.
Yeah. And it depends how hard we come after him and what kind of aggressiveness we put. He tweeted out the offer, so obviously he acknowledged the offer. I think back to like a Cole McConaughey, not to say another white guy, but, the big reason you flipped him from Louisville is because of just how hard you came after him. The NIL, the interest, the fact that, hey, once we identified him, we were after him extremely hard. Now, Michigan's not Louisville. They just had 2 defensive tackles picked in the top 15. They won the national championship 2 years ago. They beat Ohio State last year. So that's a much tougher sell, but you don't know what's going on with the kid's situation. You don't know where the weak spot is in someone's commitment. Is it money?
Yeah.
Is it maybe they don't love the area, like maybe they're not crazy on Michigan, they just love the program so much. I don't know. I mean, maybe there's no chance here and just wasting your time. So maybe there's your hope. I think what you're doing here in this part of the process, and we'll talk about it more with the safeties, is you are finding guys that you want, right? Whether on a commitment list or what. Hey, these are players that we see, maybe we didn't see in the first go around, or we had other priorities that we wanted to focus on that we had more juice with. But these are guys that, I mean, we'd be happy to have in our class, and we think can impact our chances to win the ACC and win the championship, get to the playoffs. So if they're over that bar, go after them. All they can do, what can they do? Tell you no? Okay. But let's at least make sure that we're going after the right guys. And then eventually you might catch someone with timing. Maybe it works right now. He's not interested, but then something happens with Michigan. A coach gets fired. A coach, who knows, maybe doesn't follow up.
Maybe they have another really, really down year, and things just start to go into a bit of a tailspin. You never know.
Exactly. Or they flip another player, right? I can tell you with Hayden Lowe, which was a more recent flip, 5-star player from USC. USC just really did a bad job recruiting him. So he committed because his parents wanted to stay home at that time. And then he wanted to come to Miami. Parents wanted to stay home. He goes to USC. USC really doesn't follow up with him like they should. They kind of took it for granted a little bit, which opened the door. I think the parents were kind of like, yeah, we want you to stay home, but these guys aren't treating you like a 5-star recruit should be treated. And then Miami, of course, does. He flips to Miami. Everybody's on board. Everybody's real happy that he's at the University of Miami. So those are the kind of things that can happen. The important thing is finding who you want and then building that relationship. So look, not an ideal situation. Ideal situation right now is we'd be watching Lamar Brown highlights and talking about how great it's going to be to have him in the class. That's not how it worked out. So now you have 2 in the board with Tyson Bacon, Anthony Kennedy. I really like Bacon out of those 2 is the one I'm excited about. Kennedy has some size that's more of a boomer bust kind of prospect. We've seen those go both ways, but this is a guy I think has a pretty good chance of success.
Yeah, I agree. Looks like a good player. I think part of the frustration, D, is it's not just the ideal situation could be Lamar Brown. It's James Johnson. It's Perry Wright. So there are other guys that were recruited there that obviously just didn't go their way.
Yeah, and look, Gabby's written about this, and this is obviously I agree with him. This is something we've been talking about forever. Is I am not a big fan of recruiting in the Southeast. We've had some success there. Obviously, we're not afraid to recruit in the Southeast. But to me, I would be much more focused on go to Chicago, get Justice Scott and Marquise Lightfoot. Who's the best player in New England? Is there a basketball player in Boston that switched to football that has freakish tools and is going to go to Ohio State or Penn State if you can't go in there?
I'll say this, man. I'm not too far away from adopting the Mike Norvell approach and going international.
The Sweden. You get the number two.
Listen, I'm not too keen on Sweden this morning, man. My star player at Newcastle is looking for put in a transfer request at a very inopportune time of the off season. So I'm not too big on Sweden right now. But no, man, I think just overall with some of these offers we're about to look at with DB as well. We talked about flipping guys from Michigan that doesn't feel like you're going for plan C's or D's, right? But some of these other guys that we're about to look at, I'm a big fan of the programs that they're committed to in terms of their evaluation processes and what we see in recent history with some of their recruiting prowess, I'll call it. So you want to get into these DBs?
Yeah, good look. Battle tested Kane saying, "You guys sound crazy. All the best players are in the South." I know the best players are in the South. The problem is the best programs are in the South, right? So if you're out there putting all your eggs in the basket of going to Alabama and getting guys, going to Louisiana and getting guys, we're going to talk about Georgia in a second, but there's an abundance of guys in Atlanta, and Atlanta is a big city. I think you have a better chance there than maybe some of these other places in the South. But the problem is these kids grow up in SEC country. They want to play in the SEC. SEC programs all have a ton of money, which we do as well, but they can match it, and they have more recent success for the most part. We're talking about the top teams. So it's just hard to win those battles. Like, you're very difficult to go into the Southeast and get guys from the Southeastern Conference. That's just harder. So to me, I think especially when it comes to like linemen and stuff, I think the area where you can do the most damage are the bigger cities, both in Florida, Georgia, if you're talking about the South, but really, Midwest, LA, like we got with Hayden Lowe. You can get guys from big cities who like being in big cities to come to the University of Miami. And it's maybe a little easier than going into, and look, we recruited guys from cities. Mobile, Alabama is a city, but it's hard to go to Mobile, Alabama and get guys that Auburn wants or that Alabama wants. It's just harder to do. So I think that's something that big picture, you look at again, who are our 5-star commits? Okay. Just going back a few years. You have Marquise Lightfoot and Justice Scott from Chicago. You have Hayden Lowe from Los Angeles. You have Armando Blunt, of course, from Miami. Then you go to, this year, if Jackson Cantwell, who is from, I kept saying this from a small town, or smaller, I didn't say small town. He's from an area that was tough to get guys.
I don't know, man. Our boy from Nixa, the reporter, his name's escaped me right now, but he kind of came at you. Wyatt kind of came at you. He said, "I heard what you were saying about little Nixa."
That's exactly what he said. I didn't say it was small. I said it was a tough area for us, but ultimately we got the player. And as you dig into it, I mean, Springfield, Missouri is not a rural small town. I mean, it is a city in Missouri, and you hear him, Cantwell talk. He doesn't carry himself like he just is, wants that small town college lifestyle. He's a guy that his parents traveled the world. They were Olympic throwers. So that I think allowed you to have a better chance at getting a player like that. I'm not, and Battle Tested says you miss all the shots you don't take. It's true, but in recruiting, you have to be a little smart too, because if you put all your eggs in a basket, you end up getting nobody. You're in this situation where where you're behind the 8 ball recruiting guys that you hadn't recruited before because you spent all your time on other players, right? So I think that's part of the issue. 352 says Dallas, San Antonio, Houston, Memphis. Agree. Those are all cities that we've gotten players from in the past. So I could see that. But let's flip to these safeties, Pete. All from the Atlanta area. Again, like Cortez Redding, who commits tomorrow. And I got to be honest, Pete, shout out to Steve Schrum. Shout out to Matt Suero on the recruiting staff, guys that are in charge with, and there's more than that than those. So I apologize, Liam Diao, but these are guys that are involved on the defensive side, the defensive back side, as far as identifying players, because these Atlanta safeties that we're going to go through, I'm very impressed, man. Cortez Redding, tomorrow, he's a 4-star player. Hope to get him in the boat, but these guys are just as good, if not maybe even more impressive, just with their size.
Before we'll start with Markeel Taylor, but I'm going to tell you my favorite one out of the guys that I watched. It was Jamar Owens was the one that really stood out to me because I see some of I'm glad we agreed on that just before rewatching these guys, but his ability as a free safety, but then his striking ability too. Like you see, there's a common theme with all these guys that they're not afraid to get downhill. I think they all need to get stronger, but there's twitch with a lot of these guys. With Owens, his instincts looked really, really good to me on the back end. But we'll start here with Markeel Taylor, a Cincinnati commitment. I have his film. I'll pull it up right here.
Yes, the Markeel Taylor, Cincinnati commit, like you said, 6'1", 190, of course, from Atlanta. The first thing that jumps out with this guy is juice. That was the first thing I wrote down. The explosiveness here. You see him return. Look how he shot out of a cannon. Yeah. I'm spoiled by Ed Reed picking that up and taking it to the house. So maybe there's some,
I thought for sure he was taking that one all the way. The ball took little bit of a weird bounce, but
took a weird bounce. And I don't know if he's the most overly coordinated guy, but I mean, look at the juice. And he, to me, when we talk about Markeel Taylor, all these guys, he's the most explosive guy we're after. 10.97 in the 100, so that definitely checks out. 6'1", 190. He looks strong. So you can be talking about a guy with plus size and speed. Trey Moore, man, there you go. Appreciate you, Trey. He's going to FWC Training Academy. If I pass you and see you on the water, I'll never give you a ticket, my boy. We'll respect. I
don't think you're gonna give. You don't give anyone. You wouldn't give anyone a reason to give you a ticket out there.
No, man. We respect the ocean. But shout out to Trey Moore. But man, looking at this dude with Markeel Taylor, you see him playing some corner. I don't know if his fluidity is his number one strength, but he's fluid enough to play corner and get picks. But it's really, to me, the fact that he has size. You can see him as a 200-pound type player. He has verified speed with that 10.9, and you see it on film. Look at the explosion when he rolls guys down, and he's got the tackling ability and the strength. So that to me is the Markeel Taylor deal. And you see him rushing off the edge of all these guys. He's the best at that, probably because he has that just the best first step and explosion. Cincinnati commit, so you think you can kind of wrangle him off that. What I'd like to see just from a game film perspective is the overall movement skills. I don't know if he's been at a camp where you can see him more, or 7-on-7. I know people say, well, why do you care about 7-on-7 and camps? I think for defensive backs, it does show you how they move and change directions when they're going against top wide receivers, like one after the other. So I do think there's a benefit there. But you see him playing corner. It's not like he's just like a box safety that they're just putting in there. He's diagnosing things. He's covering guys. And then, the strength to tackle. This is impressive athlete. Cincinnati's gotten guys in the past, different regime at Cincinnati, but they found a lot of defensive backs. Remember that one year with Fickle? Remember they had 4 defensive backs that went pro? So they do that as a program.
I believe James Wiggins, former Miami commit, was one of them.
Yeah,
South Dade.
South Dade, exactly. But man, look at the speed to run this guy down. This is good competition too. So it's not like he's just playing against little kids. I'm impressed with this player. Size, speed with Markeel Taylor, I think is the big selling point. Cincinnati commit we just offered.
All right, so moving on to the next one here, and this is Jamar Owens, who, as we said before, I think this is the one that you and I are both, most impressed with. and he's committed to Indiana, a program that I fully trust their DB evaluations right now. I'm kind of surprised this wasn't an offer already.
By the way, before you get into it, Albert Green says 10-9. Most women are running that. It's not speed. Trust me, it's speed when it comes to football players that we're recruiting. 10-9 is on the high end of safeties. But man, yeah, this guy right here, Jamar Owens.
I'll rewind it here. Here we go.
Striking size. Look at him come up there. Boom. Indiana commit. So you want to talk about schools that have been really recruiting well. Indiana had one of the top defenses in the country. Look at him high point the ball.
Look at him flip his hips there, and yeah, I love that.
He looks big too. I mean, his size looks good. I love this kid, and the thing about it, there you see him knocking people's heads off. So you say, okay, that part's there. Then you look at him in the 7-on-7 circuit, and both on 3 and 247 at OT7, which I was at. Now I wasn't watching this guy because I was really locked in on the Miami targets, and this was an Indiana commit, which is not on my radar. But then reading both reports from on 3 and 247 about Jamar, there you see him playing center field. They both highlighted him. I'll read him out here while we're watching his highlights. This is, I believe, the first one's from 247. And Andrew Ivan said, Owens was by far one of the biggest surprises of the day as he picked off 2 passes and almost came down with a third. Blessed with good size, Owens has the length to match and mirror larger slot weapons, but his eyes make him an effective zone defender as he can jump passing windows. Looks like a potential steal for Curt Cignetti. Then you look at on 3, same event. Ball hawk in the middle of the field in day 1, took advantage of a few opportunities, made some huge plays, showed off his explosiveness by triggering to jump a dig route and take an interception to the house on the first defensive snap of the day. Second game, jumped an in-breaking route for another pick 6. Both plays had game-altering effects, set the tone early, forced opposing quarterbacks to eat sacks. So you see that. So the hitting is there, the physicality, the size. You could really see that. There you see him covering guys, finding the football. I mean, that's a nice rep right there. Then you look at the track stuff, 22 and 2-inch long jump, 44 and 5-inch triple jump. That's a really nice triple jump. So you see the explosiveness there. No verified speed I can find. But, I mean, the note I had in my comments when I watched this is game ready, right? He looks like he could come right in and play.
You know what I like about a lot of these clips is like even here, a lot of safeties aren't seeking out the contact when they see 3-4 bodies already there. They think, look, the job's done in front of me. He's cleaning a lot of stuff up. He's finishing these plays where, from the outside, it may look like they have him wrapped up, but he's just going in there and absolutely, like I said, closing the job. And I mean, you see him here. This is one-on-one. It's a little bit different than what I'm talking about, but that's just as valuable.
Yeah. And Indiana, look, that's a hard program to flip from. It sounds crazy now, but
look at this. Look at this. He comes in. There was 2 other guys there who were making the tackle, and he's still coming over there to finish it up.
Yeah, he's nasty. He likes to hit. And he just looks like, I mean, you can see this guy playing as a true freshman. Look at that play. I mean, that was a 1-yard game.
Recognition is really good.
A 10-yard game. Communicating, playing real football. There you see him. So this one, I agree, Pete. This is the one I put a Sharpie and circled. Indiana is not exactly like what he used to be as far as being able to flip guys from there. They're going to be a top program in the country this year, which, again, shout out to Curt Cignetti for what he's done. They can sell development. But when you talk about Miami and losing out on Blake Stewart, right? I mean, we're trying to give Blake Stewart a lot of cash. Same thing with Devin Jackson. I mean, those guys are going to get nice NIL deals. So do you maybe put an off if you identify this guy and say, hey, this guy is really right there that he can be on the same level as a Blake Stewart, you can put some pressure on. Great tackler. He's not from Indiana, he's from Atlanta. So I think the off the book stuff when it comes to like Miami versus Indiana, like what he might appreciate, I think you got a good chance there. I don't know the kid, maybe he wants to be in Indiana, but that's going to be a selling point. If you do get a Cortez Redding done, that's another guy that he may know and have experience with in that Atlanta area. May help recruit him. So, we'll see, but man, he is very, very fun to watch. And that's the note I have in my book, College Ready. He's got great recognition skills. He's explosive. He's big. He can find the football. Like Liquid Enigma says, he can break down and tackle. He's not just a hitter. This is a really, really good player. And if we get this guy in Cortez Redding, I think that safety group goes from really, really ugly to, hey, we can work with this.
Yep. So the next one we got here, Joel Combe.
I mean, you're the pronunciation king.
Yeah.
You got the best shot of any of us.
6'2", 185, listed at safety here, and very productive season. You see some of his numbers, also played some offense. But your thoughts? And he is a Tennessee commit, correct?
Yes.
Yep.
So you think of Tennessee, there's a program where Miami took Jacoby Thomas, who was set to start at Tennessee this year. So they got him in the portal. So that's, show proof of concept that you can beat Tennessee for guys. Another really talented guy. My kind of view on him, first thing that jumps out, size. This is he's closest. They list him at 6'1" to 192. I know Sports Illustrated had an article with a coach. This is a nice play right here. Look at him track the ball. Had a coach either was recruiting him. I don't know if it was a Tennessee coach, if it was one of his high school coaches. Look at that tackle right there, stopping him dead in his tracks. But the Tennessee coach, I think it was Tennessee coach, said he's a natural, big, fast, and instinctive. He's like 200 pounds in high school and tracks like a center fielder. He can turn into a 220-pound missile at the next level. Again, quoting a Sports Illustrated article. I like triple jump. So he has some athleticism, not as explosive in the triple jump as Owens was, but he plays both ways, smooth changing direction, very nice footwork for a guy that's a bigger defensive back, can high point, good size, can tackle. Just a lot to like. 3-star player. These are all been 3-star players, by the way. Cortez Redding, who's committing tomorrow, is a higher ranked player in the 20s of safety rankings and 4 stars. But this guy looks pretty complete, man. I like this right there. That change of direction. I mean, look at this play and getting the pick. That was a nice fluid play for a 200-pound, close to a 200-pound defensive back. Tennessee's done a great job on defense. They were one of the best defenses in the country last year. I see this looks like an SEC player to me, Pete. I don't know what you're seeing here.
Yeah, I like him a lot. Again, the traits are there offensively. Did you see that play? It was like 5-6 plays ago that he broke a couple tackles and outran everyone up the sideline. That was maybe the best play of the highlight to me, even though it was on the offensive side of the ball. But yeah, again, like TJ Preble asked a question here. He says, would you rather have 3 underrated 3-stars, kind of like, I guess, the guys we're watching, versus 1 Devin Jackson if it's the same money? I mean, it's a valid question to ask. I will say Devin Jackson, his skill set, I still think is another level from some of these guys that we're watching. But you get a couple of these guys. I don't know how realistic that is. I think you're probably still looking at a Cortez Redding and maybe one of these guys that we're talking about in this group. We'll see who kind of emerges from here with, kind of showing more interest. But yeah, I think it would be a solid haul. I like some of these offers, right? I'm not down on them, so to speak. Especially again, Owens was very, very impressive to me.
I'm not down on these offers at all. And we got one more to go through. With Devin Jackson. Devin Jackson is unique going to Oregon, and who knows, maybe that one comes back around. They're a great program, obviously, but just because of distance, they're not the biggest lock to hold on to these cross-country commits all the time. You can flip them. Not easy, but it can be done. I think with Devin Jackson, the size and speed are so unique. With him, we're talking about like these guys have all been pretty good size. Aside from Cortez Redding, again, it's tomorrow. These guys, I don't see size issues at all. I think they're all probably plus size when they get down here from a safety position, either what you want or a little above. They look good in that way. You got to see them on an official visit to see what they really look like. But with Devin Jackson, he was like extra size. He was like 6'2", 210. He was built like a linebacker, and then he had great measurables as well. Ran fast, jumped high at the combine, and was a good performer on the field. So that whole package, hard to replicate. But the truth is, man, we don't know. I mean, it's recruiting. How many times, Pete, have we seen one of these guys? And we'll talk about a Missouri commit next. We see one of these guys go to a school like Missouri, and then you're like, oh, you're watching an NFL Network, and second round, they're going off the board. Some random Missouri commit from Atlanta. You're like, all right, that would have been good to have. You just don't know. Your chances are greater with the higher ranked recruits, which is why the fact that you go after a Blake Stewart, Devin Jackson, and you lose, you don't feel great about it because those are your top targets. But that loss has happened. It's the reality. So now you got to move on to the next step. And at least we're getting names that look the part, and there's no obvious red flags on this first layer here. So let's go to the last guy there, Pete.
Yeah. So last one here, Tony Forny from Marietta, Georgia.
Yeah. So this one right here, committed to Missouri. I know your favorite school for evaluations, your boy Eli Drink, which you were early on Eli, man. Now the stock is high.
No. I'm a big Drinkwitz fan. I did some recruiting over there. I signed a defensive tackle out of there, Jordan Elliott, who was a first team All-American. He's with the 49ers now. And that was a boring place, man. Columbia, Missouri was a very, very boring place. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, look, another reason you might be able to flip some of these guys, but they're good at getting at evaluating. They're probably one of the best evaluating schools ever. They were also in on Anthony Kennedy, the defensive tackle that Miami took out from I believe he was from Missouri. I have to go back and look. Was he from St. Louis? I have to check the notes. No, he's from
Anthony
Arkansas.
Kennedy, Arkansas. Yeah.
Arkansas, but closer to there than here. Missouri wanted him. He was committed to Missouri at one time as well. So anyway, switching gears to this Missouri commit, Tony Forny, another 3-star safety from Atlanta. If you're not catching the theme right here, 5'11", 180, but he looks big, right? His size looks good. Jumps out here, plays a lot of corner, has good corner skills. I don't know how fast he is. Probably why he's being projected as a safety instead of a corner, because I don't see, like with the first one, Taylor, you could see the explosiveness. I don't see that necessarily with Forny, but what you see is good size, really good corner skills for guys that size, and then he could tackle. So you say, all right, this is at least him getting off blocks here, making a play. Maybe you get a versatile player who can line up in the slot, cover somebody in that nickel position, get off blocks, make tackles, and do different sort of things because of that, just fluidity and the combination of fluidity, instincts, and size. But you see him find the football. I mean, this guy really is a real cornerback. He's not just some fast guy they're putting out there. There you see kind of duck. That was an Ed Reed type move. Just kind of ducking under that block, dipping his shoulder, getting there, picking up the ball and taking it to the house. Yeah, I could see why this guy's going to Missouri, or at least committed to Missouri. He just seems like their type of guy in terms of instincts and knowing how to play football. Look at him right there, eyes on the play, being able to recognize that screen, make the tackle, zone. You've seen him in zone, we've seen him in man. Here we're seeing that safety going downhill, making the tackle. So just this guy, the note I would put on this guy is just knows what he's doing out there and can cover for a safety. As you see him right here, finding the football.
Which, what do I always say, D? If you don't see many highlights and coverage from a safety, that's a linebacker.
Yeah, no, exactly. And I don't think any of these guys would fit that bill. I think all these guys can cover to different degrees. This to me is like the opposite of like a Markeel Taylor. Markeel Taylor, I thought the first one, the Cincinnati commit, big time juice. Maybe, you didn't see as much of the cover instincts. Whereas with Forny, you're a lot on the cover instincts, just not as much pure juice. But he reports a 4.5. So it's hard. Again, a lot of this is hard to see. We're just watching a huddle highlight. A lot of this involves like these guys are watching camp film. They're watching game film. They have hopefully going to get some of these guys on campus during the season just to see what they look like. So we'll see. We'll see how these progress. But, I think they're going the right direction here, given where they are in the process, which is a negative place, having no safeties committed.
Yeah, and that kind of takes me to this comment here from Liquid Enigma saying, good evaluation beats stars in a lot of cases. Miami and Mario and any coach in the country wants to land every top player in the country at every position, right? That's not a realistic thing. I think you need to understand that when you do miss out on your big targets is when your evaluation really comes into play. Where would Miami have been last year without, not that it really made a difference, but without an OJ Frederick, who was a 3-star recruit? So you need to litter your roster with more of these guys that end up surprising. And I think that's where these evaluations come into play. And I think the film looks good. They're committed to other programs that have a good recent track history at these positions too. So we'll see if you can flip one of them and what it ends up becoming. But I think that's where in today's era, these evaluations become so important, because you're not going to hit your top targets, and you need to get guys who, even if they aren't going to be the stars, can be legitimate contributors to your team and to your roster.
Yep. And, going to the Jamar Owens, because we talked about him at the front, we thought he was the best just from the highlights of the ones we saw and just looking kind of at their backgrounds. I forgot to mention this note that Owens played with Jontavius Wyman and Cortez Redding before transferring now to this new school as a senior. So Jamar Owens was with Jontavius Wyman, cornerback commits for the Canes. Cortez Redding, who commits tomorrow. Miami's going to have a good shot to get that one done. So that helps if you're recruiting him. And I think we both agree. I'm not going to say we've done a thorough evaluation, Pete. We just watch highlights. But we both kind of blindly said this was the guy we liked the best without knowing what the other person thought or what any kind of. I didn't realize that he had that connection to Redding and Wyman. So I just looked it up right now. So the fact that guy could potentially have some ties that would lead him from Indiana, which is not exactly next door to Atlanta, to Miami on a flip situation, that would make me feel better in the class. If you tell me you get Redding and him, I feel good. And Redding's the higher rated player. Redding's a 4-star. Redding's the same. Redding's really, in terms of the ranking, is rated right there with Blake Stewart and some of these other guys. But I do think traits-wise, you want to add, if you're bringing in Redding, who's going to be less on the size standpoint, you're going to want to up the size with the next safety. And that would, Owens would fit that bill.
No doubt. So are we going to do this receiver talk now, D?
Yeah, let's do it. First, before we get into the receiver room, I want to talk about a couple receivers, right? The guys that we're going to be talking about here on this receiver breakdown, and they will be at the Miami Hurricane team store. This is Saturday, so 2 days from now, Saturday, 3 to 4 p.m., Hurricane team store. Autographs: Armando Blunt, Tony Johnson, talk about receivers from Cincinnati, Keelan Marion, the wide receiver transfer from BYU, and Ahmad Moten Sr., defensive tackle. So it's a star-studded group here. 2 transfers that we haven't really seen them before, so you want to meet them, get their autographs. And Armando Blunt, Ahmad Moten, 2 of the most important players on our defensive line, 2 local guys. So just a great event, 3 to 4 p.m. Bring your kids, bring your family. Very just it's a unique opportunity to meet these players because it's there. It's an intimate setting. It's not like a huge convention center. Get autographs, get pictures, talk, ask some questions. A lot of fun. 3 to 4 p.m. Hurricane team store right there in front of the University of Miami. Use promo code INSIGHT20 to get 20% off your first item there. So Miami Hurricane team store, man. And then also don't forget CanesConnection.com/CIS for joining the collective, being part of why these players are at Miami, why we're trying to add some more players. CanesConnection.com/CIS. If you use the promo code INSIGHT50, that will get you, CIS50. Make sure I get this right. Promo code CIS50 for Canes Connection, CIS50. That will get you 50% off your first month with Canes Connection. So promo code CIS50 will get you 50% off your first month of any Canes Connection monthly membership. These memberships, different levels where they involve swag, private events, including my Zoom calls during camp. So if you want to know what's going on in practice and stuff I can't say publicly here, CanesConnection.com/CIS, promo code CIS50. Sign up today, be part of the solution.